Good afternoon, and welcome. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 21st Annual Just Blues Music Awards and Conference. Hope you all are safe out there and well. Today we have a very, very special panel to present Timbuktu Till Today, the Blues Will Never Die. With all that said, I want to welcome Mr. Emery Wright from Project, who is the Executive Director of Project South, who is sponsoring this panel today. Mr. Wright, welcome to the 21st Annual Just Blues Music Awards Conference.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles Mitchell, and it is just an honor to be here and always to partner with the Just Blues Music Foundation and really be a part of this this exciting panel today. So yes, my name is Emery Wright, and I'm a co-director of Project South. Project South is a community-based organization based here in Atlanta, Georgia, but we do grassroots movement building work for racial and economic justice all over the U.S. South. We even sometimes partner with some of our brothers and sisters globally as well. From our after-school programs for youth here in Atlanta, our local community organizing work, or to our regional work to protect civil and human rights, arts and culture is always a critical element in the struggle for positive change. And before I go on to really talk a little bit more about Project South and some of the work we do related to today's special panel, I would just like to thank again and really congratulate Mr. Charles Mitchell and the Just Blues Music Foundation team for putting on this virtual conference today and all the programs over the course of this weekend. This is just an unbelievable endeavor here in the middle of a pandemic to be able to do this. So much respect, much appreciation to the Just Blues Music Foundation. Today's panel is really important given what I sometimes call the multi-crisis that we're all living through here in 2021. As we all know, we're still living in the middle of a pandemic that's taken the lives of too many of our families and communities. This pandemic is disrupting our jobs, our schools, and our lives in so many countless ways. As we speak here today, we know Hurricane Ida is barreling towards the Louisiana Gulf Coast. And we just are praying and sending positive energy to our brothers and sisters on the coast as this hurricane, which is part of this just extreme weather we've all been experiencing over the past few years, goes towards the coast. And I won't even get into all the racism, war, and violence happening at home and abroad. It's serious times. But I bring this up because for Project South, the blues in general, and this panel, and the theme of this panel specifically, is an example that although we struggle, we survive. No matter how bad things get, the blues and this powerful panel can let us rest assured that we are going to be all right. So Project South is a proud sponsor of the panel today and a partner with the Just Blues Music Foundation, most specifically because of one of our projects called the Black Radio Project. The Black Radio Project connects radio stations, DJs, and artists across the U.S. South to connect with one another, but also create content about public affairs and about just what's going on in our communities and in our world to rebroadcast on stations across the U.S. South. Our Black radio stations, Black-owned radio stations, are part of an infrastructure that we have. It's a precious infrastructure that we all know, I believe, is in need and in deserving of more support. And so that's a little bit about the Black Radio Project, which really came from a partnership with Dr. Love and Love Radio, and people that we met through Love Radio, like the late great Tommy Brown, the great Willie Hill, Pete Peterson, and so many people that we've worked with over the years on the Black Radio Project to really just get deep into the blues and into how it's connected to social change work. It always has had that connection, and we need it today more than ever. I also just wanted to lift up somebody who many of us know, Lerone Powers. Lerone Powers became part of the Black Radio Project through Love Radio, and really gave voice, gave legs to the Black Radio Project through traveling to different Black-owned radio stations throughout the South, building with station managers, DJs, artists, and getting some of the content that we produce on the airwaves. You know, one of my mentors always said, we are not as divided as we are disconnected. And I think radio, the blues, and some of the themes that are going to be talked about here today on the panel really give us a vehicle and is part of our cultural way to stay connected. We're stronger together. And I think today's panel, Sister Tufara Waller Muhammad, who is the project manager for the Black Radio Project, was just reminding us all before we got on that today is the anniversary of Emmett Till being killed and the anniversary of the March on Washington. So we didn't plan that, but here we are on this historic day doing a historic panel with some just unbelievable panelists. We are truly blessed to be a part of this program today, and just hats off again to the Just Blues Music Foundation, Mr. Charles Mitchell. Thank you so much. I just can't wait to listen and enjoy this next panel coming up. It's going to be really great. So thank y'all so much.
Emory, thank you so much, man. That was well put. You just reminded me, of the last time that we all were at Just Blues in 2019, and we had a conference there, and that's when Project South Radio Project was introduced, and our brother Lerone Powers, who may rest in peace, is no longer with us, but he played a major part into partnering those radio stations, and it's great that we're bringing this up, because the stations in the South have been the ones that made sure that the blues music is played by some of these artists that we're going to talk about today. So hats off to Project South for recognizing and realizing that there is a need for the Black Radio Project to make sure that we stay in touch with the community and do it the way that radio once did back in the day. So with that said, I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine who has done so much for the Just Blues Music Foundation mission as far as in preservation and archiving from photos and information. And like I said, a very good friend. I want to introduce Attorney Jonathan Mason.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mitchell. And thank you for having me again to moderate the panel. I really enjoyed it last year, and I know we got something special for all the viewers today. Mr. Mitchell mentioned, I'm Jonathan Mason. I'm an attorney. I'm based out of Atlanta. Currently, first let me talk about my role with and my connection to Just Blues, because it's a great organization, and I've been attending the conferences for the last several years, and I always participate in our tech conference, and I really enjoy that. I take photos and help with other business matters for the organization, whose mission I really believe in. Today, our topic is From Timbuktu Till Today, The Blues Will Never Die. And I think that's a very timely topic, and we have an incredible panel today. And I'm going to ask each panelist to introduce themselves and take about 5 minutes to talk about what they do, their connection to the blues, and maybe a little bit about the organization. But before they start giving introductions, I just want to go through the names to give you an idea of what you're in for today. We have talented artists and an extremely talented attorney as part of this panel. We have Miss Gaye Adegabalola, and you're in for a treat when you hear from her. Attorney Annette Hollowell. Also, again, we're very fortunate to have her with us today, and two other artists who have incredible things to say, and also who are very talented, and we'll probably see a little bit of that talent shine today. Mr. Sean McDonald and Mr. Eugene Bridges. So with that, I'll start with Miss Gaye and ask her to start with her introduction.
Hello, everyone. I'm very honored to be present here, and I'm very honored to be working with the Just Blues organization again. First of all, I'm not an attorney, nowhere near like an attorney, but I am a blues woman. So I want to take just a few minutes to speak about the topic at hand, Timbuktu to today, and the blues ain't gonna die ever. The blues is about that which gives you trouble. Usually for women, it's men, and oftentimes for men, it's women. But there's lots more in the world today that gives us trouble. And nowhere in history, in the history of the world, has there been this systematic oppression like there's been against Blacks in America. The blues has kept us and continues to keep us alive. And often we use the blues to find humor in the pain of day-to-day existence. Personally, I have known oppression as a Black person, as a poor person, as a single parent, as a woman, as a lesbian, and now at 77 years old, as an old person. But my personal salvation has been found in the blues, because blues got a soul. Soul is that spiritual embodiment. Soul is that God sense that is within us. It's different from gospel. It's different. Well, a lot of people have said before that in gospel music, you say, Lord, Lord, and in blues music, you say, baby, baby. But we all know it's more than that. Gospel is about salvation, but it's about salvation after you die, after death on this plane. Blues is about salvation right now. It's about what allows us to get up and go to work the next day. And that brings us back to the theme. All pieces together from Timbuktu to today, the blues will never die because blues got a soul. And in turn, the blues artists, and I think there are three of us on this panel, we must lay our souls bare. Personally, I am the old woman on this panel. Personally, it's my dharma to keep old women's blues songs alive. That's my branch of the blues tree. Personally, I keep the spirit of those independent blues women, those fiercely independent blues women alive with every breath that's in me. And that's the perspective that I bring to this panel. The perspective of an old, Black, fiercely independent blues women. Let us not forget that the first blues that was recorded was by Mamie Smith in 1920. It was the Crazy Blues. And the last verse of that song says, I'm gonna be like a Chinaman, go and get me some hop, that's opium. I'm gonna get myself a gun and shoot myself a cop. Lord, I got them crazy blues. 85,000 of those records were sold when it was released. 85,000. Blues music doesn't do that today. People were buying that song when they didn't even have record players, you understand. And it was the first music of any kind to make music commercially viable. Angela Davis, the free Angela, that's a real bumper sticker, y'all. The real Angela Davis wrote a book on Black women, Black feminism and the blues. And in there, she chronicles the fact that it's the only history of Black working class women is in the blues lyrics. Oh no, the Harlem Renaissance did not write about what we're talking about here. And yes, the blues might grow, it might change, it might evolve, but it will not die because blues got a soul. Blues got a God sense within, and that's what keeps it, and that's what keeps us alive. Gaye Adegabalola, yeah.
Thank you for that. Those were some incredible words, and I saw the comments coming in, and people were really resonating with what you had to say. So I'm not the only attorney on the panel. We have attorney Annette Hollowell, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell the viewers what you do and what your connection is to the blues.
Hi, everybody. Annette Hollowell from Waterford, Mississippi in the North Mississippi Hill Country, and I'm calling in from New Orleans currently, so just riding this Hurricane Ida on out. I'm so honored to be on the panel. I'm so honored to follow Miss Gaye, and thank you for just framing everything in the way that you did. I know it says attorney Hollowell and everything. I'm a recovering attorney. I wouldn't describe the work that I do as anything that one might think of as far as what a lawyer does, I guess. But I'm here because of my family's connection to the North Mississippi Hill Country and because of the rich traditions of the North Mississippi Hill Country blues. And so I'll tell you a little bit about us. We have the honor of having had these 80 acres of land that we call Foxfire Ranch with our family for just over 100 years now. My grandfather, Albert Hollowell, in 1918, filed his written intention to purchase this land, and in 1919, he did, in fact, purchase and acquire this land, and we've maintained it in our family this entire time. For the last 13 years, my parents, they retired there, and they've been operating the space as a music and entertainment venue. So we have a what we call the barn. It's a big 5,000 square foot pavilion where we host Sunday evening Hill Country blues concerts, mostly Hill Country blues, but we welcome different genres of music, but we are all about the Hill Country blues. It's really what we are rooted in there. When we were first thinking about what we wanted to do with the space, wanted to do with the land, we had built this pavilion. We were hosting family reunions for either side of our family. I'm from Mississippi, so there's 300 people easily for a family reunion on each side. And after we finished hosting that, we had this space and we started having conversations as a family about what was the vision for this space. How do we want to use it moving forward? And with that, my parents started thinking about growing up in Marshall County. And then this longstanding tradition of people getting together, playing baseball, wrapping that up and gathering on the front porch and playing blues music, or thinking about some of the old juke joints out in the county that used to exist. And by the time my family had returned to Mississippi after years of being in the military and being away from home, there had been a gap of about 10 or 15 years where, some of these elder culture bearers that held these places, these kind of juke joints and these kind of, spaces for people to gather had passed on, places had burned down, and there had just been this gap. So we hosted a dinner one night. At the time I was at law school at Ole Miss, and had a lot of friends who were blues musicians. My parents had a lot of friends who were blues musicians. So we invited folks who are musicians, historians, just people that were really ingrained in the culture and really supportive of whatever it is we're trying to do out there, to come to the house, to have dinner. We took them down to the pavilion. We shared this space with them. We talked about this vision of returning to these cultural traditions of Sunday evening blues shows. And from the jump, everybody got it. We had folks like Cedric Burnside and Lightning Malcolm, members of Afro-Sippy, there's, Scott Beretta, a bunch of different people who came and really were bought into the vision. And the first month and a half that we were open, every Sunday for a month and a half, Cedric Burnside and Lightning Malcolm played for us every Sunday and got us off the ground. And we had people from all over the world coming to hear this particular music. And this is without websites, without fancy marketing. This was word of mouth. And it's been that music. It's been that relationship to the musicians in our area and in our state and our region. And it's been grounding in our culture. So the food that we serve, the music that's held there, the space that we provide for community, that has been something that's bolstered us for 13 years now and allowed us to be a resource to our community. allowed us to grow our infrastructure over time to be able to host reunions and weddings and quinceañeras. And right now with the hurricane, we're hosting people that are evacuating from the storm. So I'm so honored to be part of this conversation, because the way we come to it is going back to our own roots, going back to our own ancestors, going back to our own traditions, and just appreciating the richness of this like deep ancestral medicine that the blues is. We've been through some difficult times, and there are more difficult times ahead. And it's essential that we preserve this music. And it is, I think, you know, as you hear from other folks on the panel, like I'm excited about my brother Sean on here, like the blues is alive and well. We have so many wonderful individuals, wonderful artists, wonderful creatives, and folks that are continuing to listen, learn, study, teach, practice, play, and just disseminate the sound. And so I'm honored to be part of the conversation. I'm honored to hold space for that music to happen. I can't think of anything that's more rewarding than listening to the band play, listening to Cedric Burnside play his grandfather's song and watching his children dance and sing along to that song in the crowd. That's magic. That's medicine, y'all. So I'm looking forward to talking more, but thank you so much, Just Blues Foundation. Thank you, Project South. Thank you, Sister Tafara Muhammad. I love you for assembling all of us, and I'm excited to get into this conversation.
Wow, thank you so much. And boy, we learned a lot there. There's a lot of family history there, and it's great what your family's doing to carry that on. Sean, you ready for us? We got a nice lead in there from Annette for you, and I'd love to hear from you and what you have to say about the current state of the blues.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean McDonald, Sean Mack McDonald. I am a 20-year-old blues musician, originally from Augusta, Georgia, with roots in Arkansas. Shouts out to Sister Tafara Muhammad, who helped get this whole thing together. I'm currently at Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I am a audio production major with a minor in music industry. But most of all, I am a blues musician at heart. My roots go far, way back before I was born. My great-great-grandfather, Stoney McDonald, who was also from Arkansas, and his brother, they were both musicians and guitar players. And I also had gospel singers that came throughout my family. My father was a drummer, or is a drummer. He doesn't do it as much anymore. But we still have connections to the music and things like that. The way I started out was when I was a baby, you know, just listening to the music that my father would play in the house, jazz music, whatever it was. I would always just be attentive and listening to the music that was, you know, playing throughout the house. And as I got older, I just got more connected to the music, listening to people like Ray Charles and Fats Domino and Screaming Jay Hawkins and Little Richard. But it was at a very early age, you know, just being about 5, 6, 7, listening to this kind of music, and being one of the only people that really knew about it at the time, because everybody else was listening to what was going on the radio. But it just resonated with me so much because, as Ms. Gaye said earlier, it's got a soul to it. It's, you know, all of the music that we listen to now is some form of what the blues was when it first started out, way before the recordings, way before record companies were available, way back in Africa when I just feel that we as blues musicians, as of right now, are just modern day griots, the storytellers from Africa who were telling these stories to the people of the community and the people of their tribes and things like that, and making sure that those stories got passed down. Although the instruments changed and the lyrics may have changed, we're still doing the same things that our ancestors did, And I'm just so glad to be a part of that tradition and to carry that tradition on with people such as Miss Gaye, Mr. Bridges, and the people that are helping us, such as Sister Tuffy and Miss Annette Hollowell, who so graciously accepted myself and some friends of mine last year to the to the Foxfire Ranch for a blues assembly retreat. It was the first one of its kind, and I was very grateful to be a part of that history. It felt like we were connecting to the land and connecting way back to our ancestors, because we were, like I said, continuing some of those same traditions that were started way back before we were even thought about. It was so relieving to see that there were other people like myself as far as the blues is concerned, such as John Tavius Willis, Marquise Knox, Stephen Hall, J-Hop, who, that's what we call him, and other people, because growing up, there weren't a lot of people like me who either played the music, listened to the music, and things like that. I had to go to the elders of the community to see, okay, well, what can I learn about this? What can I learn about that? Matter of fact, I had to teach myself how to play the guitar and play several of the instruments that I play, because nobody was doing the things that I wanted to do. But it just amazed me when doing research about the music and learning more about the musicians that I was influenced by, such as Muddy Waters and B.B. King and a lot of the other unsung heroes of the blues, how much the music has taken shape and taken form into, different things. Although we may not consider it to be the blues, it's still, when you strip it all down to its core, it's the blues at its heart. Like all of the hip hop that you hear in the music on the radio, all of the R&B that you hear on the radio nowadays, even the gospel music, it's all the same thing. It has the same roots. So I'm, like I said, grateful for this opportunity to be a part of this panel discussion with such heavy hitters such as Miss Gaye and Mr. Bridges. And I'm just glad that I was thought of to be a part of it. Like I said, the blues will never die, because it's honestly just continuing to take shape and take form into different various things. And I feel that we as a people, as Black people, should continue this tradition to keep, telling the stories of the ancestors and how they started out this music, and how, they combined all of these different art forms and music forms into this great conglomerate of a culture and of a music. It's such a beautiful music, even in its rawest and most raucous form. It has such a beauty to it, that you can't help but just sit there and listen to the music. So once again, thank you all for having me.
Thanks for that, Sean. And hey, I want to tell you too, man, you're a heavy hitter on this panel too, because if you think about this theme about the blues will never die, young people like you who carrying this on are a big part of that. So I want to thank you for being a part of this. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Bridges, we'd love to hear something from you, because you've been given some nice little comments there leading up to your introduction. So we're very anxious to hear from you.
Hi, I'm Eugene Hideaway Bridges. I'm the son of Hideaway Slim. Now, I was born in New Orleans, raised in Southeast Louisiana, but I moved to Texas. And I'm glad to be a part of this, because this music started way before my time, before my daddy's time. And I will be talking about how your geographic location dictates your sound, your story, and what you know and what you have been introduced about the blues, and what also has been left out of the blues and the message in the music. Now, my story started in 1966. Although I was born in 63, I had a plastic shovel with one rubber band. I would walk behind my daddy with the rubber band on that plastic shovel, trying to play what he was playing, because there was a sound in here and in my heart that just kept coming out. And watching Daddy, I'm trying to not only play what he played, but I'm trying to bring out the sound that was in me. And see, that's another part of what the blues is. The blues is your story, coming from the heart. It is your message to the world. and the truth of the message. So Daddy sat me down with his guitar, and he started showing me first the honky tonk riff. I'll be pretty much demonstrating some of that. I'm trying to keep it into the 5 minutes spot because I can get very passionate about this and everything. When I was his backup guitar player, he'd go out and shoot some basketball. I come back and I'm not only playing what he showed me to play, but I'm playing a lot of sounds that are in my head. La da 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 da. I'm searching for those sounds on this guitar as well as what my daddy showed me. And by the time I was 4, I was already playing backup for him until I was 7. I could only go to the clubs with my daddy during the daytime because at night they, he had to take us home. When I was 7, I started gospel, playing for my pastor, playing for the Bridges brothers. My daddy, he'd start preaching. So that was the end of the blues in his house, supposed to be. But in here and in here, it just wouldn't stop. Because the music, when you're a messenger, the music is constantly growing and having something to say. I was taught by the old school and those who led from the front. That's why the music will never die, because it's coming from a foundation. We'll be talking about that foundation. We'll be talking about all of the foundation, not just 2 part, 1 part or whatever. It's like a chicken noodle soup. You can't make chicken noodle soup without the chicken. We'll with the forerunners, listening to their story as well as listening to the story in here and listening to the story that you observe. That's what the blues is about: observation and singing the truth, singing your soul, singing your heart. And as the music moved around, we'll be talking about that, how it moved around and changed. But the intention had never changed, but the story did. And we're going to explain why. Now I travel all over the world. I'm here because of the pandemic, but I travel all over the world. I'm usually in a different country every day or every week, at least from 200 shows or 300 shows worldwide. And not only do I play, I teach. Blues is part of the curriculum for year 8s and year 10s in England. I teach there. I teach in Russia. I teach the blues in Australia. I teach at some of the festivals because these are young people who wants to know, who wants to learn, not just told what they should listen to. And my job is to encourage people, to give them enough information so they could choose if they want the truth of the blues or the whitewash of the blues. They have a choice. And when this music is coming from the heart and from the spirit, my job is to keep those legends alive. B.B. King, T-Bone Walker, because those are the ones who inspired my daddy. Even the people who inspired T-Bone Walker, and people who inspired Utah Smith. You know, how the church, and we're gonna walk backwards to understand how to walk forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bridges. And you know what, you kind of led me into what I wanted to sort of be my next question, because when I was listening to each of the panelists talk, everyone kind of alluded to this. We heard about hill country blues, and I was just wondering, is it fair to just refer to all this music as the blues? Are there like kind of like subgenres of the blues? And Mr. Bridges, you just talked about regional differences. So I could call on someone, but anyone can just chime in and sort of talk to us a little bit about your view on that, like how you see are there the blues broken down into different regions or different subgenres of the blues?
Well, to explain, where in the South you had, now everybody focus on the African sound. Yes, we were brought here as Africans. Everybody focus on the white man who brought us here and the religion that they was taught us, which we wasn't allowed religion in the South. You wasn't allowed education, but we still prayed. This music was born on prayer. But the one ingredient that is missing that nobody ever talk about is the American Indian. And it wasn't just the one sound. As you travel through Mississippi, through Louisiana, you got the Choctaw, the Yazoo, it's so many to name. All the Indians that they didn't kill off, they put into slavery. And when you got that, what lend that sound were the chant of some of the American Indians. Hey, hey, hey. And just I don't want to go too deep or take too long to get into where I'm going with that. You could take a song, I love the Lord, he heard my cry, he pitied my every groan. That's how it came from Europe. But with a combination of that African sound that harmonizes doo 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 doo, as well as that American Indian sound, I love the Lord, he heard my cry. That's where that sound was born. Nowhere else in the world. Nowhere else. Not in Africa, not in Jamaica, not in anywhere else in the world. And there's Black people all over the world. And I live it every day. I see it every day that have that sound. That one ingredient is missing that gave it that sound. But you was saying, you was praying. It was those prayers that gave the music, gave the blues that spirit, because it wasn't called blues then. It was called gospel. It is, Lord, 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 help me. And you wasn't allowed to talk. That's the root of that sound in a lot of that sound that's coming from the South. And different American Indians, different African tongues, you know, be it East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, different parts of Africa had a different tone as well. So it's a combination of all of that and being denied. So it came from the spirit. That's why this music will never die as long as your spirit is strong and your spirit is true. Sorry for taking too long on that one.
No, that wasn't too long at all. That was very, very informative. Anyone else? Ms. Gaye, you got any thoughts on that?
In Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, some of Georgia, the predominant form of the blues is Piedmont blues. It's called Piedmont blues. And it's characterized by an alternating thumb on the bass strings. Let me, I'll pull back a little bit. I think we can get it. Cross the legs, pull back and cross the legs. So that is the main distinction with Piedmont blues is that alternating thumb on the bass string. I'm a-going fishing all of the time, and my baby's going fishing too. Bet your life, your sweet wife is gonna catch more fish than you. Hey, many fish bite if you got good bait. Here's a little tip that I would like to relate. With my pole and my line, I'm a-going fishing. I'm a-going fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing, and my baby's going fishing. Something like that. So I heard Philadelphia Jerry Ricks. I don't know if any people remember him, but he was on a radio program one night and he was saying one big difference between Piedmont blues and Delta blues was that in the Delta, slavery was worse than it was in the Piedmont. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. Slavery is slavery. But the Delta form of the blues tends to be more mournful. And a lot of Piedmont blues is kind of quite like the ragtime. So if you listen to somebody like Elizabeth Cotton, or if you listen to Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, who were the first ones that turned me on to the blues, the form is Piedmont style blues. So everywhere you go, it's kind of like Chicago blues is different than California blues. Jump blues is different than Texas blues. So there is a geographic flavor to it all. But from the Piedmont, that's your typical variation is the thumb, the alternating thumb. Now, I used to play a lot of Piedmont style blues, but at 77, arthritis been coming to these fingers. And so this is kind of messed up and this is kind of messed up. And so I've had to alter my style, but I ain't gonna stop playing. Yeah.
Wow.
As the
Go ahead.
sorry, as the sound moved more further north, we got a mic that's feeding back. As the sound moved further north, now Down here, people would leave it. The job was up north in the city. Now, this is where I was going to get to, where the sound was changing and everything. When you left the city, when you left the country and went up to places like Detroit, Chicago, and up in the north, you know, you had other Black people who's gone through some hard time, like as Gaye was mentioning. You had people from down here, they would say "de here" and "that there," because there was no education or the lack thereof, very little education. So other Black artists or Black people was giving Black people a hard time from being from the South. That's where that term "fresh off the turnip truck." So they changed the sound because it's coming from a 440 tuning. It's coming from a 440 tuning and everything. And that's how jazz was born. Instead of playing, they play off the root. And so they was like pretty much not forced but bothered. They was being irritated to maintain their country way of talking and country way of cooking and country way of singing. So it was more contemporary to get along. But as long as you still got the spirit of that music, you know, every place had something to bring to the table. It's like gumbo. Gumbo start out with a few ingredients, but as your geographic location, you add a few more ingredients. You know, it just don't leave out the main ingredients. Don't leave out the flavor and the spirit of the music and the spirit of what you got to say. And BB told us a long time ago, make a statement. Don't be like a politician, just talk and ain't said nothing in your music. Be it a little, be it a lot. Make a statement.
I'd also like to piggyback off of that, just speaking on the varying styles of the blues and how you were saying in certain areas you had certain hardships or you were exposed to certain things. So maybe, you know, in the Delta or, you know, as far as Chicago blues is concerned, you have somebody do something like I'm sorry. They might start off something like that, but if you're in California or if you're from Texas going to California, like T-Bone Walker and Pee Wee Creighton, you might do something like they're two completely different sides of the country. They're two completely different influences, because you had a lot of people who were, you know, maybe sometimes listening to the same thing, but they were getting, you know, two completely different forms of what that person was playing. So a lot of people around that time were listening to Charlie Christian. A lot of people were listening to T-Bone Walker. A lot of people ended up after those two were listening to B.B. King, and a lot of those people who were listening to him were also listening to Albert King and Freddie King and all those people. Even folks like Robert Jr. Lockwood, who was one of my favorite guitar players, who took the stuff that he learned from Robert Johnson, such as he took all of that, but he also combined the stuff that he learned from T-Bone Walker and Charlie Christian. So he's doing stuff when he's backing up folks. He's doing stuff like so it's all a different, like he said, it's a gumbo. So you're getting a mix of everything that you're listening to and that you've been exposed to. Even like he said, like she said, your hardships have something to do with it. You might sing about the same subject, but have two completely different viewpoints on it. And that's just the makings of the blues.
Wow.
If you ever had a chance to go to Stax Records, Stax Museum, where it used to be the Stax Records, there's when you first walk in the door, there are these different little televisions, like a church steeple with these televisions in it, and it's showing Church of God in Christ service, it's showing a Baptist service, it's showing a Methodist, a non-denomination, different religion. See, a lot of the different American Indian, as well as the different nation of Africa, gave gospel, those same words that came from the Bible, those same words that we was denied the chance to learn in church and whatever. You wasn't allowed religion. They use that dictates your sound and your voicing and everything. Now, when it started moving north, a lot of people, they just wanted a job. They don't have to do it right, just do it right now. Some took that mentality, but those who actually put the spirit in it, as you would just finish playing, as they put the spirit in what they were saying, each song is a conversation. It's not like, well, I'm gonna sing T-Bone Walker, I'm gonna sing this guy. You can focus on one guy, but when you look at the spirit of your heart, what you have to say, if a tree fall on your foot, you don't have to, there's a tree on my foot and it hurt. Very 440 educated music. But if you sound like James Brown, they would know. Your spirit will tell them that you in pain. You don't have to wait. Your guitar don't have to, your instrument accompany what you have to say, because you are the messenger. Not just, you could choose to listen only to this guy or only to that style of blues. Yes, that's no problem with that. Or only focus on certain things. Yeah. But your message in the music, when it calls for a Jimmy Reed feel, you just tell your story right there and let the instrument accompany what you got to say. And as you grow, you add more into the flavor, into what you're saying, and that's still going to entice what you have to say as a person, as a musician, as a singer, not the instrument. Not, even if you don't have nothing to say, that's nothing gonna come out.
Wow. Thank you all for that. It's so hard for me not to just let this music just keep going, because it's really incredible. But Miss Annette, I haven't forgotten about you, because you're the one that kind of got this started when you mentioned hill country blues. And so I wanted to give you time to get your guitar so you could start playing too. But seriously though, I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, and what's involved in that type of blues.
Thank you. I was like, there's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to say to follow up on all that teaching and all this wisdom. I believe that folks on this call can probably speak to the hill country blues as far as the technicalities and everything of it better than I can. I think the way that,
but from a different perspective, like from a cultural,
yes,
tell us about it.
Yeah, so what I was struck with as everybody was sharing, because like my commitment and like part of what I know my work is like, I just want Black and brown folks to connect to this music. I want people, people across generations. I want us to reclaim this music as ours, because it is ours. And there's so many ways that it's been co-opted and taken away and diluted. And we don't want no bland blues, right? You have to have this soul. You have to have this existence, this experience of this world that informs and infuses it. And as everybody was talking, we're talking about kind of like the different regional styles. I was just thinking how wonderful it is that we have particular styles of blues for particular places. Like, I feel deeply honored and tied to and like moved by the Hill Country Blues, and that being a place that my family is from, generations of my family are from, and it's not necessarily something that I came to early in life. It was something that came from returning to the land, building connection with the land, being back in community in that way, and then really digging into culture. And so as I think about like what it looks like to reclaim, what it looks like for the, Timbuktu till forever, right? The blues will always be alive and well. Is like, how do we connect these different audiences, in many instances, these younger audiences, these blacker and browner audiences, to the blues traditions in their area? What is it like for these Georgia folks to really understand the country blues in their area? What is it like for folks in Mississippi and Texas and all of that to go back to that? Because there's just so much information and so much history and so much wealth in that. And so for me, this kind of return and deepening with the hill country blues is something that is, it's just spiritual. Like, I have a lot of friends that, and I've been living in New Orleans mostly for the last 20 years and back and forth a lot. And so, I'm always going to catch hill country artists, and we're going to host hill country artists in Mississippi. And then I'm always calling my friends when they're playing down here. And it's like, let's go see a hill country show. And some of my friends will go and they'll feel it, and they just take off. And some of them are kind of like, okay, I can respect it. I get it. That's your thing or whatever. And it's just something that you have to feel. It's something that you have to feel. And I think that I'm excited by folks like Sean, as he was talking about, last year we had this gathering of young bluesmen who came out and spent time on the land with us for about 7 days. And, they were plucking. They was focusing on country blues and plucking. It wasn't about amplifying and this and that. They're like, no, we about to play. And they're talking about all of these different styles, all of these different techniques. You can't throw a song out around these young brothers or around Sean without them being like, oh, well, there were 5 versions of this song, and the first one was recorded in 1931. They know the history of the music. They know the history of the business interactions, with the artists and the labels, just on and on. And so there's so much information we have access to now. There's so many ways to experience and to dive into the blues. And I just want folks to be able to connect in deeply to the music from their area, and wherever that takes them, and appreciating this whole spectrum, this whole universe of how the blues has evolved and how it sounds and how it's being adapted and, and held and carried forward. I think that that's really essential and really important. And so for me, I said this earlier, it's deep ancestral medicine. It's continued on this long because it's needed and it's necessary. So I'll stop with that.
No, thank you. That was great. We're getting a lot of activity in the chat. People are really, this panel is really resonating with folks. And one question that I think is really interesting is, how has the introduction of the internet changed the regional representation of the blues? And so to take that further, I guess in general, how has technology either expanded the blues, hurt the blues, make people more familiar, just the impact of technology on the blues? And it's great that we have different age groups represented here to hear different perspectives on technology in the blues.
I'm young, so I'll let the young man go first.
Yeah.
I was going to let the elder speak, so if Miss Gaye wants to go first, then that's fine by me.
I think Miss Gaye.
Sister Annette was talking about hill country blues, blah, blah, blah. I just want to classify my way of thinking about hill country blues so other people might appreciate it and investigate it. Hill country blues is the kind of blues that makes you shake your ass all night long. Okay, it's the original trance music. And if you haven't experienced hill country blues, do so. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, when Attorney Annette was talking about spiritual, they say there are 2 kinds of people in the world: religious people and spiritual people. Religious people fear going to hell. Spiritual people have already been there. So most of us blues players, we are quite spiritual in what we do. Technology is coloring the world right now, and we cannot avoid it. I will just bring up one good thing about it, is that prior to this whole glut of streaming that's going on, you had to get CDs made, And one way or the other, they would cost an arm and a leg, whether you were lucky enough to get a label to do it or whether you did it yourself. One way or the other, you really had to pay. And oftentimes you ended up with boxes and boxes and boxes in your closet. As it is right now with streaming, stuff goes up into the clouds. People can pull it down if they want to. And then also it can go to China where there are gazillion people, or it can go to Japan, or it can go to Jamaica, or if you will, it can go down to some corner of Brazil. So we have an opportunity to really spread this blues all over the world. And people, when they hear it, they love it. So we just got to make sure that that happens. So that was only my comments as takeoffs on Annette's commentary. And of course, we have to get to blacks and whites and the blues.
Indeed.
I'll just say first, concerning Hill Country Blues, because someone asked in the comments, what exactly is Hill Country Blues? It is some of the most Africanized blues that you can ever hear. Honestly, because it's just based on the groove, you know. So whether that groove is something like, what was it? It's the continuation of that groove. And when we were in Waterford on Foxfire, it was so funny because I started playing, I think it was Going Down South by R.L. Burnside, and Annette, who was there, who was watching us do the show, she was like, play that Hill Country stuff. And it just made me want to play it even more. But that's the basis of what Hill Country music and Hill Country blues is. And listen to people like R.L. Burnside, Junior Kimbrough, Jesse May Hemphill, who else am I thinking of? Somebody named Napoleon. Can't think of his last name. He was a harmonica player and he played guitar as well. But a lot of killer musicians come out of the Hill Country area. It's the northern area of Mississippi. But back to the topic at hand, the introduction of the internet and technology to the blues, it's helped it and it's hurt it at the same time, in my opinion. Napoleon Strickland, thank you. That's his name, Napoleon Strickland. It's helped and it's hurt at the same time. It's helped because it allowed young people like me to be able to get further connected to the blues. Had I not heard had the internet or anything like that, I feel like I would have been introduced to that kind of music way later in my life than I did. Because at first it was just me listening to the radio. So, and that was a lot of the stuff, like I was listening to gospel music, the older R&B music that came onto the radio, the newer R&B music that was on the radio. Every once in a while you could hear a good James Brown record, but that was about it. And that was the stuff that I liked. When I had a computer, I was like, oh, I can get to this quicker. I can listen to the stuff that I want to listen to. So I was able to, as a kid, when I first started out playing the piano, what I would do was I was taking lessons, but I didn't like it. So I would go on YouTube and look up videos of Little Richard, Fats Domino, Ray Charles, and I'm looking and trying to watch their hands to see exactly what they're doing, So I don't want to, I didn't want to sit there and look at the book the whole time because the book isn't giving me exactly what I want it to give me. So I'm watching these people and I'm over in one corner, the computer's in another corner, and I'm looking back and watching and looking back and watching and, stopping it and listening and seeing what this is. And if this sounds right, and I'll play it back. then when I started playing guitar, that opened up a whole new world for me. And actually started when I was playing harmonica, because I was able to listen to the records of Little Walter and Sonny Boy Williamson and Big Walter Horton and people like that. Whereas I normally wouldn't have access to it. You know, not everybody has a Little Walter record on hand or a Sonny Boy Williamson record on hand, just to where, or even at that, a record player on hand to be able to listen to it. But when I got into the guitar, I was able to see, you know, okay, so if this is if this is who Muddy Waters is and what he is to the blues, who are the people that influenced him? Who are the people that influenced the people that influenced him? Or same thing goes for somebody like T-Bone Walker. You know, who was he listening to at the time? And usually in YouTube, you'll get the recommended videos of their contemporaries and the people that they were listening to at the time. So you get a broad variety of blues that you can listen to, and blues that you can be influenced by. And so with that, you know, like I said, it gives you a quicker way to get to that kind of information. So that's where it helps. It hurts because at the same time, you have people who will who have used the internet to their advantage to be able to put themselves out there, yes, but because you have someone, and you know, I hope I don't catch no flack for this because I know that they're fans of this guy, but you have someone like Joe Bonamassa who is out doing his form of, you know, what he calls the blues, and people think, oh, this is it. This is the living in. This is exactly what we need. This is the blues of today. And it could be, but you have people like myself, like Mr. Bridges, like Miss Gaye, who are truly carrying on, like I said earlier, the tradition of how it started way back before Joe Bonamassa was even thought of. And you have, and I'm appreciative of the people who were able to combine all these various genres of music and were able to, you know, expose us to that kind of stuff. But when it becomes, you know, a question of, okay, what is your view of the blues? You know, people might have a very whitewashed and misconstrued view of the blues due to the internet showing you that, okay, this is what the blues is today, when that's not always true. You have people like myself who are still doing some of the older music and the older style of music, and it's not as, you know, modern as people would consider it to be. There are various bands around the country who are still doing a lot of the traditional stuff from the 40s, the 50s, and the early 60s. And then, you know, after that, you have some people who combine the later things. But it's all a part. I definitely feel like it's hurt and it's helped in various ways. And sometimes it does more good than it does bad, and sometimes, you know, vice versa. So it's all very subjective.
All right.
I wouldn't exactly say it does better. I mean, I'm a first, before I go into about the internet, Ms. Antoinette, I wanted to comment on that about the Hill Country. Ms. Gaye, we've been meeting up all over the world in a lot of concerts in a lot of places, like a family reunion every time we meet up. And that Hill Country Blues was one of the festivals we met up at. And now, as I spoke earlier, when you moved from the South and you had to cross that Mason-Dixie line, you had to get across that line. And when you got up there was a celebration. So that music you're talking about, where you're going to shake your butt, that's a celebration. Even when you're still in the South, you know tomorrow you got hell to face. But for right now, I just want to get toe down, drink that bathtub liquor, and just play some grooves and just feel good. And it one song can go on forever. Just that groove. I want to feel good. And when you're in a place like up in the Hill Country where you are now developing families and the family history and remembrance of it and everything, you now growing, you remembering your family and your family's family and everything. So yeah, that is a beautiful thing. The internet can't reach that. It's something you literally have to take on by hand and be a part of. And also when you're in different places like Jackson, Mississippi, you get that sound, that Malaco recorded a lot of artists with that melody sound. So each location will dictate, like even in Virginia, you are now grounded in that area and you try to feel at home and also remember your past and everything with the different music. And it's about recognizing your family, your traditions and everything, and every place you go to develop all these new traditions. Now with the internet, as Sean would say, a lot of people, they blast the internet with a lot of things, whether they learn it or not. Joe Bonamassa, he didn't learn how to pray with his instrument. He didn't learn how to make us because that wasn't important to him. That wasn't. It was all about hurry up and play it because I like that sound. It's not about studying it as we do, as you reach back and try to study and understand the prayer of where these songs are coming from and the melodies and everything. The internet doesn't allow you, when you do record that album, doesn't allow you to come and shake hands and tell people and let them see you and perform and tell them why you was inspired by that song. Like, Sweet Home, it's a beautiful home. They say, oh, that's the blues. No, it was before it was called the blues. It was called gospel. And you don't, with the internet, don't allow you to bring that in person and touch someone in person and say and let young people who should be exposed to this. The internet pretty much say, you're this age, you listen to this. You're that age, put a foot pedal on it. You're this color, listen to that. I've never played with foot pedals because if the acoustic guitar can't say it, it ain't worth saying. If the heart is not saying it, it ain't worth saying. If my spirit can't say it, it ain't worth saying. If it ain't coming from the spirit, I don't sugarcoat and I don't cover it up or just go through the motion. I want a story in every song that I tell because I want 20 years, 30 years, 50 years from now. Here it is, 55 years I've been playing the guitar, and that same story that my daddy, when I write. I still mean that as I did it back in 1966. And the internet, it only choose what they, what they're gonna bring to the youth or to different nations and different cultures. You're in Japan, you're in places like Bangkok. I had to learn how to teach because I had to learn how they accepted this music. They just looking for a formula. With the music, when you're taking music lessons, they teaching you a formula, a mathematical formula. It wasn't called a 1-4-5. That was your first change, your second change, your third change, and back to your first change. That's how it was taught to the people when they was playing from the spirit. As education, on an educational point, yes, you can reach more people. But if you're reaching more people with the truth of the music, or are you reaching people with what's available and what's popular? And a lot of time, the truth and what's popular, as Sean was saying, it isn't the same thing. And that's why being there and being there in person, out trumps being on the internet or putting it on the cloud or whatever. Yeah, it could be easy on some places, but I'd rather be there so you could feel it, and I can actually tell you how and why I sung that song and what was inspired into that song.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Miss Annette, I was going to ask you, from your perspective, like your family, hosting shows and events, how's the technology factored into that and, been able to expand the blues? And I was interested in your view on that. And then whatever else you had to say, because I saw your hand up.
Yeah, well, and I was going to add on, I was going to just, add on to what Mr. Eugene was saying there, but and also thank y'all for chiming in on Hill Country, because you know, sometimes I don't have the words for it because it is trance. Like for me, Hill Country is being on the dance floor with my mama, just stomping, you know, footwork, screaming, shouting, spinning, pulling people on the dance floor with us. And just like Mr. Bridgewater was saying, it is this experience. It is something that has to be, that, like, I think is best experienced in community. And so as it relates to the internet, I mean, one example that I love and about how the internet works, I'll keep going back to Sean and the Foxfire Blues Assembly and John Tavius Willis and Marquise Knox, DK Harrell, Lil Dylan Triplett, Stephen Hull. You know, these are J-Hop. These are guys that, you know, some of them knew each other, but mostly they had found each other online. They found each other on social media and they're watching each other's videos. They're getting on the phone and they're playing together. And so when they reached out to me about, we need a space to actually all of us be together. Some of us haven't met face to face and we want to learn because iron sharpens iron. And this is what we do, you know, like it's incredible just sitting on the phone for hours and hearing them just go back and forth. And so I think that in those ways that it allows that connectivity, it allows us to find our folks. It allows the study and diving in deep to these different aspects of the music, different tracks, different histories. I think that that's really critical and it's important. I think one of the places where I feel kind of irritated or challenged by, you know, internet, social media, all this kind of stuff is like it becomes another way for people to make everything an academic exercise. Everything is not an academic exercise. The blues is not an academic exercise. Yes, it is full of history and things that need to be studied, documented, and stories that need to be told, but we are an oral people, you know? And so I'm glad that it's being documented in ways that can be preserved. But, you know, there's ways that you see folks, particularly white folks, position themselves as authorities on this style, on the origins, on the spirit of this music, when that spirit doesn't move them. They don't play Nan. They don't play Nan. They don't pick Nan. They don't sing Nan. And not that you have to be able to sing and play and pick to do all those things, but I think that there's ways that folks will try and pigeonhole, and it's just another way and tool of commodifying and exploiting and taking and claiming. And so that's the part where I'm just like, you know what? I don't care if you got all these degrees and this and that. Do you know what it feels like to break it down on the dance floor with your mama and a bunch of strangers? Do you know what it feels like when the spirit comes through? You know, like, do you know what it feels like when the sky opens up, when that guitar hit that note and the rain comes falling down? Like, that's the stuff that can't be captured and that I think is part of this technology of the blues. I'm not interested in the technology of the internet. I'm interested in the technology of the blues. As it relates to, you know, Foxfire in particular, you know, we've been doing this, we've been hosting these blues concerts for 13 years. We've been welcoming people on our land and being this gathering space for community for 13 years. And, you know, there are hundreds of videos out on YouTube, out on social media, pictures and stuff like that. We didn't take none of them. We've taken plenty of them, but like there's so many videos. There are so many things that are out there. There are so many people who have interviewed us and done little stories, or university students that have done little documentary pieces and things like that, and trying to tell our stories and trying to capture that lightning, that white lightning in a bottle, and trying to distill what that magic is, what that spirit is, what that feeling is. And so I think that technology is useful in that, but what I'm most interested in is how we tell our stories, how we harness the technologies in ways that we can control the narrative, that we can control the access. One of the things that, you know, I love about, you know, Sean and the young men from the Blues Assembly is the conversations that we're having about what does it mean to really, what does it mean that the contracts that they're getting and the contracts that blues musicians were getting decades ago are damn near the same thing, that it's still exploitative in so many of the same ways. How do we take control of our image and the use of the image? How do we take control of the music and the use and the distribution of that music? How do we create venues and festivals and circuits that don't just name the culture and hire a bunch of white musicians, but name the culture, preserve the culture, disseminate the culture, and put money into the pockets of the people that are really the culture bearers? And so I think that there are opportunities with technology to do that. And I think that others have gotten in there and ran with it in ways that it leaves something to be desired. It leaves something to be desired. So.
Okay. Thank you. I definitely enjoyed that perspective. This leads me to another line of questions, and we've alluded to the international aspect of the blues, and especially for our performers. I was wondering if you could talk about like where are some of the places where maybe you've gotten the best receptions, internationally speaking, and when you perform there, do you feel the same connection to the audience as you do with when you're here in one of the regions that we've talked about?
Miss Gaye, you want to take that first?
Yeah.
Well, one thing about international, a lot of the music that I do, especially music from the 20s and 30s, is very lyrical. So it goes over best or better where there is an audience that has access to those lyrics. And that's just my particular music. I must say that I've been blessed to play in Ghana, in Togo, in South Africa. I've been able to play in Brazil, in a lot of parts of Europe, and over in Australia and New Zealand. Blues has given me an opportunity to see the world. And when I was talking about technology, I really want to make it clear that there's a big difference between trying to earn a living playing the blues and playing in your hometown on the weekend. So Eugene and I were talking about this not too long ago, and how our livelihood got wiped out last year and looks like it's going to be wiped out again this coming year. It's two different things, and what has sustained me has been the internet. So your question about international, I've been able to get some upcoming international dates again because of the internet. And I'm grateful for it. It's really sustained me last year and this year. And this meeting that we're having right now, right today, as I look at donations that are coming in. And I would like to encourage anybody who's watching this program, please make a donation, because Just Blues does something entirely different than the Blues Foundation. Now, I know I'm getting off the point here.
It's fine.
But it's very important to know that we need Just Blues as Black blues musicians. Charlie Mitchell didn't tell me, don't get political, Gaye, because my politics are like his politics. But when I did a workshop for the Blues Foundation last year, I was told, don't get political, stay away from it. So many of our benefactors are indeed, you know where they're coming from. So we need help. We are grateful. I am grateful that we have this opportunity right now to connect. And I wrote down the saying that Emery started out with. He said, we are not as divided as disconnected. And this is what we will use this technology for, to make us connected. And again, to connect us all over the world. Now, Jonathan, I don't think I answered your question, but I don't want to suck up all the time either.
Well, we don't want to cut you off if you got something
okay,
to say.
Well, I will say that some of the places where I've been best received have been in Jamaica, in Emancipation Park, with 5,000 people at a concert whose admission price was canned goods. And it was absolutely fantastic. And I did songs from the 20s and 30s and explained how they came to be. I explained how there was a song like Tricks Ain't Walking. I explained how there was a song like Black Eyed Blues. I explained how these things were in our history. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Prove It On Me Blues, BD Women's Blues, Pygmy on the Line. Pygmy being a small lover or pygmy lover. So where I've been able to teach with the lyrics internationally, it's been absolutely, absolutely wonderful. All over Australia, it's been wonderful to teach because there's a lot of rampant racism in Australia. I found it anyway, and this was in the 90s. But for them to understand, for when I toured in Ghana and I toured all over Ghana, it was very important to let the people in Ghana know that all Black people in America are not free, that all people in America, because we are Black, there's a big difference between Black and Negro. And they had to know our brand of racism. And so to use the blues to share that in Ghana has probably been more rewarding than anything. When I played a major blues festival in South Africa, in Stellenbosch, I was the only Black person there. Get to that. A blues festival in South Africa, and I'm the only Black person there. So, there's some things that are very impactful. Some things impact in a good way, and some things impact in a bad way. And that was one of those bad situations. So, I hope that enlightened somewhat.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Mr. Bridges, when I braced this, I saw your face light up. So I know you got something to say about this.
I traveled across America until I was like 21, 22, 23, looking for an agent to let me do what I was born to do, and constantly turned down. My second day in Paris, I was signed to an agent. It would have been the first day, but he was away coming back from a festival. That same night, I was signed to a club, which I met the bass player former bass player for B.B. King's band, Joe Turner. And he was signed to Mystic Records. So my second night, I found all the 4 things that I was looking for there. Okay, that was fine. Every day, the music was broadcast by word of mouth and people who want to learn. Music is not segregated into a Black station or a rock station or an R&B station. Music over there is music. And what I can appreciate from Sean and where you have come with just listening to your sound, a lot of kids, like blues is part of the curriculum for year 8s and year 10s. They want to learn. Here's an 8-year-old kid. They want to learn about the blues. Some go through motions. They say, okay, well, it's a course. I'll go through the chord, blah, blah, blah. But you see those who the music, it stands out because they want to know the truth of the blues. Every stage that I've been on was by invitation, because not only they appreciate the truth of the music, they appreciate what the blues music has done for them and done to them. And a lot of people come through there and they just blast the blues with foot pedals and everything, but they just say, okay, that's the blues. They call it the blues, but they're not feeling it. It's going one ear and out the other. But when the truth of the music is coming, you got something to say. That's what bringing you from country to country, to nation. There haven't been a continent that I haven't played. There's a few countries I haven't played, but only a few. And each is by invitation, because they're eager to learn. They're eager to feel what you got to say and not just hear it, to feel it. And if you don't have nothing to say, they're going to send you back. Black or not Black, they're going to send you back. The way they appreciate it, they get to know you and the music that is coming from. They get to know your what they call the pedigree. They get to know your story and what you're about, what your music is about, and I get a chance to teach what is not being taught over there, or that they don't know about. The spirituality of it, where these sounds and this story coming from, and express and keep that knowledge, keep that the history going. And then I try to come back here to do the same thing. And I find a lot of walls, which I'm dying to tear down these walls so they can know as well. no matter where I go around the world, the international artists, pretty much they only get a certain sound, like Steve Ray Vaughan or Joe Bonamassa. That's the only thing they know about the blues, or Eric Clapton, or something like that. That's the only thing they know about the blues, but because no one took the time to actually break it down. But the moment you are heard, your sound continues to travel and continue to expand and be you're invited and you're expected, because as soon as you show up, they already know who you are because of your sound and the message that was in your music. When you have something to say, it's not like just because you sing blues or just because you Black, you're gonna be the number one thing out there. The message is in the music, and then the way the crowd does in across the world, that every stage I ever played on, is by invitation. And a funny thing that somebody interviewed me with that same question, is said, "Have you ever done a bad show?" And I'm like, I kept thinking about that, and only thing I could come up with is when I was at Lackland Air Force, my friend and I was saying Amazing Grace. Now, my dad is a Church of God in Christ minister. His brother is a Baptist minister. We got ready to sing the second verse. I didn't know the words to the second verse. He didn't know the words to the second verse. But we sung the entire second verse as the entire verse. That was, I think that was the worst show I ever done, because at that time, I did not know that second verse. But other than that, the music is always welcome, and the history of it is always welcome. So every time we hit the stage around the world, is by invitation. You invited to actually express yourself.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, that was just great. I'm telling you, the reception we're getting from the viewers on this panel is amazing. And I want to go back to a couple of things that were said earlier about this organization. And to our viewers, if you are enjoying this and you appreciate the mission of Just Blues Foundation and what Mr. Mitchell and the leadership is doing, please really seriously consider giving a donation. And for those who already have, we really, really appreciate that. And just these comments are just blowing me away. And I'm so glad that we're going to have this, as a historical piece that people can look back on. I want to kind of get to the last few questions here, because we could definitely go on forever. But Annette, you said something earlier about sort of like, I guess, the business practice or the contracts, and how maybe a lot of the attitudes toward blues artists, haven't changed in the industry, or have you see that the artists are more savvy now, or maybe they have more information available to them? If we could just, talk about that, because we're talking about a span of, a long period of time from, some of the, the going back to Mamie Smith in the 20s to now where we are now. Just what do you see, and what is your view on the kind of like the business or industry side of the blues?
Well, my disclaimer being that, like, I'm not practicing in those areas or anything like that, and that most of my exposure to that is from relationship to different artists and having conversations with folks, or people asking me, because you're a lawyer, you're gonna get asked to review things, and like, what does this say? What does this mean? How do we break this? Is there a way out of this? All of those things. But just noting that based on, and again, not to make broad generalizations, but then I'm still gonna make some broad generalizations. That some of the same practices, some of the same kind of, some of the same practices, clauses, some of that impact is the same, where you find musicians in a position where they don't have that that same right, or that complete ownership of their music or their sound or their image or their work in the ways that they would want. I think that what's been interesting for me in building relationships and having so many blues men and women as friends and everything is just listening to them as they're navigating what does good management look like for them? What does good relationship with their record label look like for them? What does it look like for them to be able to create in the ways that they imagine, to be able to get their music out in the ways that they imagine, collaborate with others in ways that is building up the whole ecosystem of the blues economy, right? And not in ways that like, okay, well, I got to get mine, and this is structured this way, so like, I'm sorry, but I got to cut, and and I got to do my lone wolf thing. I'm over here, and you're over there. Like, there's from my limited view, from my conversations, from my limited understanding, that there's some of these technical dynamics in place that feed a level of separation, and that there is work to be done to like really talk through what does it look like for us to build differently? What does it look like for us to be really intentional about how we're thinking about supporting each other and kicking each other work and collaborating on work and gigs and working with venues and places that we want to see succeed and thrive. I'm grateful for the musicians that have worked with us over the years and, accepted pay from us where like, I know they can go around the world and probably receive 3, 4, 5 times as much as that. But because they believe in the vision, they believe in the mission, they believe in Black folks, they're willing to work with other people. And so just naming it, and I really definitely want to kick this to Sean and Miss Gaye and Mr. Eugene, as far as their experience goes with kind of navigating the business aspects of it, but just noting that I think like in a lot of our kind of cultural work, our art, our artistry, that there are ways that we are not able to access the full value or leverage and profit from music and culture that is inherently ours. That continues to be siphoned, that people continue to get their cut, continue to get their piece. And I don't know if this is, different than any of the rest of the music industry or anything like that. But just noting that that's something that the artists that I come in contact a lot with speak to and think about, and increasingly, especially with a lot of these younger musicians, they're not for it. They want to figure out a different way. They want, whether it's taking a lot of those things in-house and handling themselves, working collaboratively in ways that allow them to get their music and their work out there and to maintain control and autonomy and ownership of something as simple as who's taking pictures of them. So yeah. I'm gonna kick it back.
Wow.
Yes, Ms. Gaye. I see
Ms. Gaye.
Please, I'll make it brief. Attorney Annette, you are just so very, very beautiful. And we need you. Eugene needs you, Mack needs you, I need you. Okay, we need you. The one good thing about technology, again, I'm bringing it back to technology, is that for so long, we as a people have not owned the means of production. Now we can own the means of production. We can do that with people like Alan. And Mack, I was thrilled to learn that you are majoring in audio production. Now you see, Attorney Annette, we need entertainment lawyers and we need management people who can hook up a whole management roster. People like you should be booking all those people who come to play at your facility, So the one other good thing about technology is that we can now own the means of production easily. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I was going to ask Sean about, as someone who's currently, in college, studying music, what's available to you, formally, also just outside of school, through the internet. And do you find that, people in your generation are savvy about learning about the music business and owning their own publishing and that sort of thing?
To some extent, yes, but a majority of the people my age are just like, man, I want to make this music. You know what I'm saying? So it's like okay. So the main reason I went into my major and my minor was because I knew that I was going into a cutthroat business. I knew that getting into the music industry, one way or the other, I was going to have to come into some trouble as far as, because I've heard too many sad stories or sob stories about, you know, musicians who they think that everything is going good as far as, you know, being a musician is concerned. They're enjoying the fame, they're enjoying the popularity, and they're not receiving a dime at all. It boggles my mind that you have so many talented people, particularly Black, you know, musicians, who have all this talent to offer the world, all this love to offer the world, and yet and still they're getting played as far as the music industry is concerned. One of the reasons I moved up to where I am in Nashville, well, in Murfreesboro, but it's close to Nashville, was because back home in Augusta, Georgia, they don't take good care of their musicians. A lot of people, you know, it's like, okay, if I'm doing a show and it's a package deal, and out of all of the musicians on the show, you know, if I put on one of the best performances, I should get a bigger check than just $100 or, you know, you know, small potatoes as far as the, you know, the money is concerned. But that's been seen a lot throughout history. A lot of people, you know, that look like us and play the same music that we play have been getting played for years and years and years as far as the music industry is concerned. So with that being said, I decided to switch up, you know, switch everything and go to school, not only to get studio, yes, $100, not only to get the education for what I need to know as far as the studio is concerned. That's where the audio production comes into play, because I want to be able to, if I have to record, if I have to make an album, I can cut back on costs as far as, you know, hiring people is concerned, because I can engineer and produce the record my doggone self. Or that goes for anybody else that has to, you know, that wants to make a record. I can do that myself and cut out the middleman and not have to hire an engineer or hire a producer. And then I get the credits, and that makes me more money as far as, you know, getting royalties and things like that are concerned. As far as my minor is concerned, the music industry minor, it's showing us things about contract law, intellectual property, music publishing, you know, things like that, to where we not only know, okay, yeah, I can play the you know, I can play this guitar real good and I can sing the blues real good, but I'm gonna make sure that my business is straight and all of that is in check before I leave this venue, because I want to make sure that I'm not getting gypped for my money the same way that my people have been doing for a long time. For example, my great grandfather, Willie Rochelle, he wrote a song and he sent it off to this record company and they pressed the record, but he didn't sing on the record and he couldn't sing, but he didn't get any money for the record. Somebody else sang the record, he didn't get any money for the record. So I don't want to have to go through that, and I don't want my children to have to go through that, and my children's children to have to go through that, because if they know that this is a legacy that I'm setting forth, they know that, and if they want to go into this business, they have a means of doing it. And I also kind of want to touch on this comment. It says it's crazy when church musicians are making more money than blues musicians. It really is. It's been plenty of times where I've done gigs for free, and sometimes, depending on the person, I don't mind doing gigs for free. But if I'm playing somewhere, and you know, I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in everything that I should be able to put in, I should be able to get some form of a portion of a payment because of the work that I'm putting in. You know, I can't think of exactly who said it, but it was something like work plus, you know, worth equals cost or something like that. And because I put in these 10,000 hours as far as playing this guitar is concerned, I should be able to make more money than, you know, just a measly little $100 or $50 or such, you know, things like that. I had to cancel a gig because there was a lot of my band members were afraid of, you know, the Delta variant and things like that. But I was gonna have to catch a $350 flight to fly back up to Tennessee just to make $75. That doesn't look good on my part because I'm paying way more money than I'm getting back as far as the show cost is concerned. But, and like they said, the church musicians and the blues musicians are the same people. B.B. King said it best. He saw that when he was playing spirituals on the street corners, everybody would be like, "God bless you, son. That sounds really good. You know, that's wonderful," and would pass by his hat. But when we would go to the juke joints and things like that, everybody's putting money in the hat. So I want to be able to make sure that I'm getting as much money as possible out of this business because they've taken so much from me and from my people. So me going into school and learning about the ins and outs of the business and learning from people who have been in the business, like a lot of one of my professors is an entertainment lawyer. Another one of my professors is a music publisher who's worked with big names and things like that. So we're getting the bulk of, you know, we're getting the good information. We're getting the inside stories of what's supposed to be going on and how we're supposed to be handling our business. And I feel that a lot of people my age should be able to, or should have the want to, if you're going into the music industry, to take classes like that because of the fact that, you know, yes, it's fun to be able to go into a recording studio and make the record, but how are you going to get that money back? You have to pay for studio time, you have to pay for things like that. So how are we going to make money off of this record, and how am I going to be able to capitalize off of myself just to be able to, you know, say that this is the work that I presented to the world, and I should, because I put out my hard work and things like that, this is my heart's desire to put this kind of work out. How can I gain some of that love back?
Thank you for that, Sean. It's really good to hear that people are now being concerned about, you know, their publishing and the business, and that you're taking these courses about the industry, because it's really been a travesty what's happened to a lot of our people, not just in the blues, but in Black music in general, and how people haven't earned what they were entitled to, and how they haven't gotten credit in publishing on songs that they wrote. And so it's really encouraging to hear what you're doing. And I really encourage you to spread that message to other musicians, because I'm, you know, in Atlanta, and I've been in the music business for a long time, and so many things were done on a handshake or understanding. And I know there were songs literally that were out on the radio, and people hadn't done split sheets on the songs, and so no one could get paid and that sort of thing. And we got to end those practices in this industry and educate ourselves. There's too much information available. There, you know, you have access to too many people now with our technology to not be educated. It's great to want to make music, but you've got to have the business side of it so that you can get what you're entitled to. And also, like you said, leave a legacy for the generations that follow. So we could definitely go on. This has been an amazing panel. So what I'd like to do is ask each panelist to close us out with, and what I want you to do is, we've talked from after today, it's clear to me that the blues 100% is alive. And what I'd like for you to do is just give your thoughts on what you would like people to do, or what can we do to make sure that the blues stay alive and well, and not just stay alive on, you know, in fair condition, on life support, but I mean alive and thrive. And we'll go down to each one of you. And if you want to, you know, leave us with a little something on your guitar, then that's fine too. In the meantime, I want to remind everyone that, and Mr. Mitchell will probably talk on this, we have the show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I think you can access that on justblues.org, but Mr. Mitchell can give further details on that. And we appreciate all the donations. I know there's been a banner going across the screen where you could click on, I believe, or you could just go to justblues.org and make a donation. I think we've touched on most of the questions that were put in the comments. I'm sorry if we missed anything, but if there's something that we missed and you really want to know, you can reach out to us after, and we'll try to touch upon that. And so with that, I'll start with Ms. Gaye, and just, you know, your closing remarks. And this is, again, let me just say, I want to thank the panelists. You guys were amazing, and I learned a lot. I enjoyed this. The viewers certainly did. And again, and also thank Mr. Mitchell and the Just Blues Foundation for putting this together. So Ms. Gaye, you want to start us off?
The Just Blues Foundation organization, and I'm so delighted to meet you, Mack, and to meet you, Attorney Annette, and hope our paths will cross one day. For me, what I would like to leave with the audience is that I feel that more attention needs to be paid to songwriting, that we see a lot and we have a lot to say, but oftentimes our songs are just about man, woman, woman, man. And there's so much that we need to speak about, that we need to testify about, that we need to become griots about. And by the way, my last CD is called The Griot, but I've been using that title for decades, actually. I recently read the Oxford Press, and there was an article in there called The Wall, and it was about a man who was being killed, a prisoner who was facing the death penalty the next day. But it was being written from the perspective of the Black man who was cooking the last meal for this prisoner. And all of a sudden, I had a whole new understanding about how this death was affecting the whole town, was affecting families, was affecting this man who was simply a cook for the last meal of a prisoner who was being put to death. I think that as songwriters, and especially as blues songwriters, we need to take some time as we hone our craft to come up with new ways of enlightening or new perspectives on enlightening the world to the blues. And I love this music. I love this format. I will do it forever and a day. And I'm so honored to be here. And I know I'll talk to Eugene soon, and hopefully I'll talk to you, Mack, and I'll talk to you, Attorney A. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Attorney A?
I done messed around and got a new name on here.
Yeah, kids call me Miss A, so I'm
All
passing
right.
it on to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
but we had to switch it up a little bit so it's not
Yeah,
confusing.
right.
I got it. I look forward to connecting with you in person as well, all of you again. And thank you again to Just Blues and Project South, and to Farah, everybody who's been involved in helping assemble us. I think for me, the like closing thought or thing that I want to leave with folks is really my vision, and what excites me is thinking about Black land spaces and the role that we've always been able to play in preserving our culture. And so I feel honored that my ancestors saw fit 100 years ago to procure this land and hold it for us. And that fast forward, we've been this place that's been able to help support musicians and amplify their sounds and provide a venue for them to play at home for the last 13 years. And God willing, we can continue doing that another 100 years. And so I believe that this music, and I keep saying it, is deep ancestral technology. And I think that it's important that we continue to create opportunities for people to connect with it. So I'm all for home concerts, backyard concerts, intimate gathering experiences, anything, you know, what are ways and tools and strategies? How do we get folks in Georgia and Alabama that have some access to some land or a little plot of dirt or whatever it is? What do you need? What infrastructure do you need to be able to host a concert, to be able to hear the sounds that come from your region, to be able to have people connect with that and dance to that and eat food to that and drink that corn liquor or drink some good spring water or whatever it is that you're into? Those are the things that excite me. And I feel like part of the role for Black folks, if you're not playing this music, you know, you need to be listening to this music. You need to be creating opportunities for people to connect with this music. You need to be paying musicians well and fairly. You know, adequate reciprocity, an attempt at adequate reciprocity for all the years and all of the legacy that they carry. We have to start to improve how we operate in that way. And so I'm here for figuring out, what are these alternative venues? What are these alternative festivals? What are these small home gatherings? How do we reignite this kind of chitlin circuit or tap into what's already existing and out there, so that we are creating spaces for these artists to connect with their audiences and for us to get this medicine, because we need it. We're going to continue to need it, and it's alive and well. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you for that. Mr. Sean, you want to go ahead and give your closing remarks?
I'll close it. I'll let Mr. Bridges go first.
Well, first I want to say thank you to Just Blues and everybody, and Mr. Mitchell for putting this on. The thing that need to be done is get away from the stigma of what blues is. Get away to understand it. You got to walk to the past to understand where you're going, and that way you would know when you hear the blues and say, "Oh, I know what the blues is." Blah blah blah. No, that's misconception. Know what you know. Know the music. Know what the song is saying, and tell a story. Always tell a story. Have a message in what you got to say. Let the story of the music bring you back to the next place and the next place. It's not about how much money you're going to make, but the statement that you make. And when someone see you 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now, they know that message that you had to say in that song that was lifting. And Mr. Charles asked me to do a portion of this before I left, so I was going to do this. Trouble is gonna rise, no matter where you go. Things are gonna happen. That's why you gotta take it slow. You better rise above it. Come on and rise above it. If you don't rise above it, it's gonna drive you mad. You might live in the city or in the country in a one-room shack. You won't make it to your destination when you're always turning back. Come on and rise above it. You better rise above it. If you don't rise above it, it's gonna drive you mad. I'm not gonna say the whole thing, but I just wanted to do that for Mr. Mitchell. But it is always put a message and lift, because that's what it was born from. It's not the situation you're walking in right now. It's about what the prayer is about, where you are mentally and spiritually. And everything I've done, I've been back in the States for 1 year and 4 months. And my mind is not on this pandemic that I've been walking around in. It's not in this hell that I'm walking around in. My mind is on the wonderful people that I have touched with my music. My mind is on the places, the beautiful things I've seen, and what my music have done for other people, and how I was inspired by the forerunners to be able to teach that and tell that story. And they able to reach back and say, "Hey, I want you to sing that old guy from 1929 song." No, we want to hear from you what's in your heart again. and again and push repeat and hear that again and again. So that is my message to anybody who wants to do a music, any type of music. It's not about how much money you're going to make, but how you reach the people. What's popular and what is right, a lot of time is two different things. Always do what's right.
Thank you so much for that. Sean, it's on you.
First of all, I want to thank the Just Blues Foundation for this wonderful, wonderful panel discussion. To Miss Gaye, it's a pleasure meeting you. I used to listen to your music with the Uppity Blues Women on the Blues Channel as I was learning how to play, and I was like, who are these women? And who is this lady with the hair and everything? So it's a pleasure to finally get to talk to you, Mr. Bridges. Wonderful hearing you as well. Annette, because we know her as Nettie with the good greens. So that's that's family right there. And to Sister Tuffy, love you so much. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I want to say that the major thing that we as a people need to do is to educate the youth as far as this music is concerned. When I was growing up, and I was listening to a lot of the blues and things like that, I remember there was one girl who asked me, she said, why you listen to the blues? You don't listen to nothing else? And I was like, nah, I do sometimes, but the blues, just as we say nowadays, it hits different. You know, there's a certain message in it and a certain soul and a feeling that it has to it that that you can't get that anywhere else, because there's so much hardship and love and feeling that goes into this kind of a music. So I like what he said, keep on picking, we need you to carry on. It's on me and the people in my generation to continue this music, to keep the traditions going. And I'm gonna kind of play off of Mr. Bridges here and do something by Percy Mayfield real quick, who's one of my favorite songwriters as far as the blues is concerned. But he said, let me see. Heaven please send to all mankind understanding and peace in mind. But if it's not asking too much, please send me someone to love, someone to love. Show the world how to get along. Peace will enter when hate is gone. But if it's not asking too much, please send me someone to love. Please send me someone to love. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank y'all so much.
Wow. Thank you all. That was just amazing. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Mitchell to close us out.
Wow.
Look on his face.
Hey, Gaye, you know I love you so much. Sean, thank you, young brother. Nice. Eugene Bridges, you know we have a lot of conversations about this. And that pleasure meeting you, and look forward to doing more stuff and coming down there in Hill Country, getting baptized in that Hill Country blues. Jonathan, thank you, man. Always there for Just Blues. You know, this was just so enlightening. I learned some stuff about Annette said that we should create our own festivals and venues and tours and make sure the artists get paid the way they should be paid. creating a place of our own and making sure that when you see the blues festival, that it's a blues festival. I could really go on and on about this. We need to, this is a great opportunity for us to get together and collaborate more. I think we need more conversations like this, some of what I call awareness conversations, and conversations that remind us about who we are, how we feel, and how we express that feeling. So with that said, I wonder if, is Emery still around? If not, Emery, are you there? I hope you're still there.
Still here.
Yeah, come back, man. Yeah. I want to hear what you tell me, what you feel, brother.
Well, I just feel so grateful again to Just Blues and to this panel. This was just absolutely, I didn't know if I was on camera or not, but I've just been smiling for the last 2 hours and just feel so grateful to this incredible knowledge that has been shared, and I saw Miss Gaye with her guitar out, so I was just hoping there might be a second. I'll stop talking to see if there was a second where she could do something.
Am I supposed to play now or not?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I'm so thankful to be here today. Yes, and the blues ain't gonna die. Sit-ins and picket lines for civil rights. Dogs and water hoses, crosses burning in the night. Was down in Mississippi that Emmett Till was lynched. Then down in Texas, James Byrd was dragged and ditched. James Byrd, a righteous name I know. Just change that James to Jim, and the bird is still a crow. Change, nothing has changed. Change, nothing has changed. Washed and ironed all the white folks' clothes. Nursed their babies, now she works in nursing homes. Had to be twice as good to get half a chance. Still hired first and hired last. You talk about a glass ceiling, don't you know she's down on her knees on a concrete floor. Change, nothing has changed. Change, nothing has changed. Landless against the landlord at home or abroad. Nothing's really changed for what it's worth. They got you coming, got you going. It's all based on greed. You rent to own, and the interest make you bleed. Used to buy from old master at the company store. Now call it MasterCard. It keeps the people poor. Change, nothing has changed. Change, nothing has changed. Look out now, look out them. KKK and the Nazis marches Charlottesville, spewing hate, current crimes, wanting blood to spill. They're saluting Hitler and their president. They wave their rebel flag like the war ain't over yet. If the mob was black at the Capitol, they'd all be dead by now. White thugs walk around free, that's what the law allows. Change, nothing has changed. Change, nothing has changed. How can I be angry? There's been some changes, true. Too slowly in my lifetime, there's much more we can do. Anytime a child is hungry, anytime there's homeless men, anytime there is no doctor and there is no medicine, anytime there's ethnic cleansing, anytime there's genocide, anytime there's been a hate crime and freedom's been denied, anytime there is a war and religious persecution, execution, a shepherd or a Trayvon, another fatal shooting. Anytime there is a error, anytime a reservation, anytime we meet up face to face with discrimination, how can I be angry? There's been some changes, true. Too slowly in my lifetime, there's much more we can do. Gotta make a change, y'all. Gotta make a change, y'all. One by one, yeah. Two by two, yeah. Gotta make a change. Gotta make a change. Gotta make a change. Thank you, Charlie Mission.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Just Blues. Thank
Oh,
you. We gotta make a change. Yeah, we gotta make a change. Amen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank everyone on the panel again, and thank you for participating today. With that said, I want to remind everyone tomorrow night, which is August 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be hosting the 21st Just Blues Music Awards on YouTube and Facebook and justblues.org. You can get it very easy. I look forward. It's going to be a great time. We got a lot of performances. And as we said, I didn't say it on air, but Miss Gaye will be opening up the show with her white suit on. And you don't want to miss this. So again, thank you again. Thank you for all the donations that have come in. I look forward to doing this again very soon. I want to thank again Project South, all the partners, everyone who helped make this happen. Thank you, Mr. Alan Johnston. I hear you very loud back there. We all hear you very loud. So you're doing a great job, my brother. And we're going to continue this mission. And I look forward to, again, like I said, seeing everyone tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The easy way, Facebook, justblues.org, you'll get it. With that said, thank you very much.
Leave it all y'all. I'm gonna leave it all behind. He come. I'm gonna leave it all behind. Oh, I'm gonna leave all of my worries. I'm gonna leave it all of my stresses. I'm gonna leave it all behind. Oh, I'm gonna leave it all of my problems. All of my opinions. All of my I'm gonna leave it all behind. I'm gonna leave it all behind. I'm gonna leave all of my pain. All behind. Thank y'all very much.